There is always a way to get it done.
This is episode 20 of the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network podcast, hashtag the network. We're coming to you from the network studios inside Michigan Investment Title. This episode is brought to you by Soble Law.
Hey everybody, we are back with Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, hashtag the network podcast. Super excited to be here on another roundtable edition. Today we are going to be talking about how not to be a one-trick pony. And I'm Dylan Tanaka. We're going to go around the table, introduce ourselves, and tell a little bit about what we do in this business of real estate investing.
I'm Nathan Guinane. I'm a buy and hold investor throughout Metro Detroit. I also do flips, but I'm focusing on just multifamily.
Hey guys, my name's Hassan. I'm a buy and hold investor too. I own some properties in Metro Detroit, focusing on mixed use and apartment complexes.
And I'm Erika Weichel, president of Michigan Investment Title, and I help real estate investors get their deals done. So, Hassan, you are our guest today, and cool. We've done some business together. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started? Because you kind of have an unusual pattern to your deals.
Sure. I started 3 years ago, and since then I've just kind of been coming back because it's been so easy to do business.
Yeah, thanks.
But I essentially started by buying a property. My dad works in hospitality. I had 20 grand saved up for my job. I said, hey, can I invest this in a hotel? And he said, no, go and do your own thing. And so that just kind of started snowballing and trying to find ways to invest money. So I kind of just started finding off-market deals after I bought my first one on the MLS in 2016. And since then, it's just been rolling and going. So the main focus has just been like lead generation, finding really good deals, wholesaling the ones that don't make sense for me to hold in my portfolio, and just going from there. Yeah.
And that is your main source. Your day-to-day, everyday job is real estate investing.
Yeah, I quit after a year of doing real estate. I quit my full-time job.
I think that's what we all did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years for me, but yeah.
Yeah, back in the 70s, it took you longer to quit your job, so I wasn't quite that fast. But
inflation, right?
Yeah.
I think that was a thing.
I've been full-time since, I think, 2007, so I'm 12 years deep.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. So everything's just been hunky-dory since I quit. I can't imagine going back. Even though I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was complaining about that he had to mow the grass, and I was like, dude, I would pull the weeds out all day rather than going back to a full-time job. I would do that.
Yeah, and weeds a big thing right now in real estate.
That's true.
Oh, where do you want to go from there?
We can talk about weed. I mean, I don't it's like that one guy's podcast. They smoke on there. Are we doing that here too?
I don't know. I just saw Mike Tyson on his podcast, and they're spending
it's a thing.
40 G's a month, or was it 400,000 a month?
Wow.
On what?
Weed. Just smoking it.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's how much they're just smoking for fun. It's not with the podcast. So that's what Iron Mike's into now. And he looks old, man. It's taking a toll on him. Yeah, he said it. He said thankfully he found it because he was a maniac before that. I didn't know that. Guess when you chew people's ears off, you might need to puff a little chiba.
Oh my
God. Can we go a little more into his mixed use deal?
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what mixed use is?
Oh yeah, so I've only done one mixed use deal, so I'm not some expert, FYI. But in terms of my understanding, mixed use is anything where you have more than one asset class in one structure or one parcel. So you can have residential on there, you can have retail, office. It's usually not mixed with industrial, just because there's a lot of noise typically. But that's the general idea of it. The mixed use deal that we just bought, Erika helped us close on it at MIT, and basically I found it from a cold call about a year ago, and the guy used to run a paint shop in his business. 10 years ago he closed it down, so I had contacted him to buy his duplex. He said that, hey, everything's on one parcel, I have to sell you the whole thing. So we went through, did some analysis, did the due diligence, and then basically closed on it about 2 weeks ago. So
right when he said he'd be willing to sell it, did it take a long time to negotiate a price?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Like he started out real high?
No, he didn't start out real high. I just started off real low. So he was like, but he's an old guy, right? So the old people take a long time to make decisions. So that was basically the hinging factor, just waiting for him. But I would touch base almost every month. I would stop by his house randomly. It was really weird stuff, but eventually he kind of just said, okay, whatever, I'll give it to you. So he agreed on a fair price. There was a lot of rehab after we did our inspections. So then we negotiated a land contract, which he gave it to me at like 4%, 5 years.
What city was this in?
This is in Berkeley. So the property is closer to downtown
Gotcha.
area.
So let me break in real quick and tell you how classy this young man Hassan is. I was actually in the office that day on another closing when you were here closing that deal.
Oh, yeah.
And this guy brought food for the whole office. So let that be a lesson to all you young and old investors out there. Bring food and people like you.
That's true. If you feed us, it helps. It definitely helps.
Oh,
And it was good food.
I know.
There was a lot
It
of
was
food
tasty.
too. We
It
ate
was
that
tasty.
for like the next day or two after that. The girls were taking it home and fighting over certain things. So it was pretty good.
It's tasty.
Yeah,
So being close to downtown Berkeley, that's huge, right?
It is very helpful. Yeah. So it's a great location. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but at least from day one, I'm not losing money. I'm not putting money into the deal. So it's covering the debt service, it's covering insurance and property taxes. So I can at least go ahead and figure out a game plan. But it's a
And what's
solid
on
deal.
that parcel now?
So there is a 3,000 square foot retail space / office, and there's also a 2-car garage that's about 600 square feet, and then a standalone duplex that's also on the parcel, and then some lawn space that's on an intersection on 12 Mile.
And that duplex is already tenanted when you got it?
Yeah. So I had to move out the bottom tenants just because we increased the rents day one before closing. But yeah, it is right now. Top unit is rented, and the retail space is also being used for storage, and then the garage is going to be rented out for 400. So.
Can we talk a little bit about that big deal? We don't have to go into a lot of detail, but because I know you worked that deal for a very long time as well.
Yeah.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
The one from last year?
Yeah.
So that one was really fun. Basically, the guy's name was Oldron. So I connected with him in 2016, basically it was the first time I was cold calling, and still at that point, I was just cold calling on a spreadsheet, and I had like no systems. All we did was just skip trace numbers. I would just go onto white pages, look up the numbers, and start dialing. I called this guy. He had a place in Hazel Park, and he said, no, I don't want to sell it. But he seemed like a cool guy, so I just kind of stayed in touch. He said, well, it's the second time I called him. He said, you know what? You caught me on my good day. I'll sell it to you, but not now. So then I was like, all right. This person is at least some sort of lead. So I kind of just stayed in touch with him. He told me he liked coffee. He drank 8 cups of coffee a day. And so I bought him some Starbucks coffee, like the grounds, and dropped them off at his house, and, just sent him handwritten letters every 2-3 months. So one day he called me and he was like, hey, I want to sell my portfolio. That day I went when my manager's office quit my job. And then in the next 3 months we closed it.
So again, I mean, we were kind of talking about not being a one-trick pony. So you had to use, several different types of ways to either find people. Persistence is another one.
Oh yeah.
And these deals didn't happen overnight, and no one was flagging you down. So you actually had to go and find ways to find people, talk to them, build rapport, and stay patient.
Oh yeah, that's the hardest part. Yeah.
And then how many properties did that one guy
sell?
He
sold 13 or 14 properties
in that portfolio.
And from between Metro Detroit, 13, 14, none were in Detroit.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was a fun deal. And then I went to Vietnam.
For a month, right? That's amazing.
But that's like, you always take time to, even like the actor Matthew McConaughey, like he always just, every time he's about to do a film or after he gets done, he takes about 3 weeks off. And I've realized the same thing even in my life. You take a few weeks off and you get to kind of like zoom out of your own life, and you can kind of assess, all right, where do I want to go with this strategy and what do I want to do? So I feel like that's pretty important, even though you get stuck in the day-to-day. But then you take a step back and you say, okay, wait, let me reassess everything. What am I trying to do here?
So you hopped on like a motorbike. Didn't you buy like a motorbike
Yeah.
or something while you were there and rode
Yeah.
around for weeks
Yeah.
and you figured out your next step?
Yeah, basically. And every time I go, I'm like, oh, I'm going to figure out so much. And I get to that, I'm like, what did I do here? But it's just a lot of fun. It's just, it's just time for nothing. So your brain just gets a chance to decompress and think.
And you were by yourself.
Yeah, totally go solo.
Traveling by yourself does help with that.
And there's so many benefits apart from just the travel part. Like you get to learn how to solve problems. If you don't know where you're going to stay, you don't know where you're going to eat. That's basically what you have to figure out. So day-to-day challenges, but it helps you in many
I
ways.
stay at the resort, so I know where I'm going to stay and eat. I'm not quite that brave. So what about you guys? What do you think about that? Are you guys...
I'm just waiting for Hassan's book to come out because I know him well enough. I'll get the autograph.
Yeah.
Listen, this is
Okay.
how these millennial guys act. I don't know how old Hassan is, but he's way younger than me. And if I hit 13 deals, I'd be running and working another 80 hours. So, it's just that different mindset, which is very cool. And we've got a couple different generations here at the table. Obviously, a very young lady with Erika, and old
Yeah.
guy with me. Then a couple millennial dudes across the table from me. But honestly, I mean, that's what the round table is all about. It's kind of getting a mix of how people think about things, mindset, why you're in this business. You're not just in this business to buy and sell houses or apartment buildings or borrow and lend money, whatever it is, right? It's to kind of be able to build that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you weren't stuck in that cube being told
Yeah.
what to do.
Totally.
You can get locked in if you got a bunch of rentals and being told what to do because your tenants become your boss.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about systems at that point, right? So you figure out a way to systemize your day-to-day stuff, so you can deconnect.
Right.
Well, we were just talking about that before we were recording. I mean, things happen,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you realize that your systems need to change.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly evolving.
Yeah. Definitely.
The 13 property deal, was it
Yep.
single families, duplexes?
Yeah. So one of them was a duplex in St. Clair Shores, but the rest were single families.
Did you actually buy them all or wholesale them or piece it out?
Yeah. So
Nate's all about the deal. He's like
Yeah.
me. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't hear about Vietnam. That's cool.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can-
Vietnam's sweet.
I watched
would
the
do
movie,
same
but
thing.
tell me
it's-
about the deals.
it is the podcast is about real estate. So, so it was 13 of those properties. I didn't put them all into my name, so I assigned them all at closing. So
break
I found-
that down real quick again for the watchers and listeners who don't really understand what that means.
Yeah, wait, before you do that too, with that, like,
Yeah.
explain if you did like 13 to one guy or if you had like 10 buyers
For
and
sure.
like pieced
And
them all out.
before you do that, was it a regular motorcycle or moped?
It was definitely a motorcycle.
Okay.
It was like a
All
nice
right.
Honda Civic.
Wow.
Or no, not a Honda Civic.
Honda
Honda
Civic.
Win. Honda Win.
Win.
But it was fake. I found out at the end. It's not real because I bought it for $100.
It's
Right?
a fairy tale.
Can't complain for $100.
Yeah, I sold it for $150 too when I left. So.
Flip the motorcycle in
Yes, sir.
Vietnam.
So,
All right, so go ahead and back up and break
Okay,
that down for us.
So basically, once I got connected with old Ron and he decided he wanted to sell the deal, he wanted to sell all of his properties. So I said, okay, let me give you an offer for all of it. So essentially, once we had negotiated a price, I think it was like 570, 600, somewhere in there. I had determined the ones that I wanted to keep and the ones that I wanted to sell. So the ones I didn't want to keep, basically I wanted to sell. There was about 5-6 of those. They were in Warren, just areas where I'm not comfortable buying yet. So I sent those out onto Facebook and on some wholesalers lists. I just connected with them. I said, hey guys, shoot this out. I'll give you a referral fee, whatever you need.
Referral fees are nice.
Yeah, definitely for doing nothing. Like you just
I don't know
blast it
about
out.
nothing and build a
Well-
5,000 person list.
Yeah, but then it's leveraged, right? So I sent them out and one person reached out. He basically said he wanted to buy them all. I said, okay, I've already done my inspection, so I can't do it again. And I said, I want to sell it without any inspections. I had all the photos on Google Photos. So it was up there. They looked at everything. I said, look, you guys have to waive your inspections, bring in cash, and we can close on it. But it was still a fair deal for them. So I think the value on the properties was probably close to $1 million. They bought it for like 600 or 700, I think. Wait,
Yeah, so they had a huge
yeah.
layer of security there just
Yeah.
in case there was a bad basement or two or whatever.
Exactly.
Not that you're selling anything bad, but
Yeah.
I've bought houses sight unseen, and
Yeah.
I'm not buying them at full price versus being able to look at them. Of course, Nate's done the same thing.
Yeah.
We do
No,
crazy
for sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's all
Need an
about the
extra
dollar.
discount for that.
Yeah,
So
the risk discount.
yeah, it's a risk reward analysis, and everyone has their own thresholds.
So break down how these guys bought them, so everybody understands that you didn't like close on them at Michigan
yeah.
Investment Title and then
Oh, yeah.
resell them to them. And
So so it's basically a process called assignment/wholesaling in real estate. You basically get a property owner to sign a contract to sell them to you, and in that contract you have something called an assignability clause, where it gives you the ability to assign properties, whether that's in part or the whole thing. And then you can basically go ahead and sell that piece of paper or that contract to someone else, and they buy that piece of paper from you, and then they pay for the purchase price that you have on the contract and your fee on top of it. So that's how it's structured. In some states it's not legal, but I think this is Michigan only. So
yeah, I don't care what anybody thinks. Talk to a lawyer, figure out what you got to do. Everybody has speed bumps and they stop.
Yeah.
But old Ron knew what you were doing. You weren't pulling the wool over his eyes. You explained to him how you were going to sell them.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the beginning, I told him I was going to buy it all. But in midway through, I said, hey, I'm going to sell some of these, but either way, I'll close even if I don't find a buyer.
But you explained it to him. You didn't lie to him.
Yeah.
So then you got him sold. He was happy. He got his money. You got your end.
Yep.
You got to keep a few. You got to sell a few, and turned out to be one of the kind of most famous deals that year in real estate, because that was 16, right? Or 16/17. What year?
That was at the end of 2018. So actually
that was at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
I heard about it like a year before, but it seemed like. But I guess it was just the the rumors were flying at all the networking events that some young guy had 13 houses under contract. So I was trying to find the guy and offer him more, but I wasn't able to do it. No, I'm kidding. No, one day we'll break all that down, all the different protections you can have as a buyer once you put somebody under contract, to make sure that somebody else can't just sneak in. That's important stuff to know. But yeah, I mean, that's just an awesome deal. And as soon as I heard about it, we knew we wanted to get you on the show to talk about it. But one day we'll break that whole thing down, I think, in a case study and really like whiteboard it.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
Cool. So what's up with you, Nate? What are you working on?
Finishing up that one rehab I got in St. Clair Shores. I sold my last rehab just a couple weeks ago through Erika. There's like a couple closings, but so she closed that. So like I said, working on this flip. I think I'm buying another one that I might hold as a rental or flip. I'm not sure yet. But really just looking at a lot of multifamily.
Nice.
I go into Grand Rapids on Monday to look at multifamily over there. I've actually never been to Grand Rapids. I was just telling Hassan. So we're going to check out the area. Going with Tio. He's got a friend there that's an investor. So he's going to show us around. He has some properties to look at. And I got a buddy there too that we might meet up with who also invests over there. So they're going to show us around and see how that area is, expand the network a little bit. But yeah, that's about it, I think. I think I'm actually making a hard money loan too.
Sweet.
Yeah, so on a property, stupidly safe deal. So usually I don't do that. But
this is the whole point of the show. I knew when we got all of us together, the whole one-trick pony thing. Hassan's done residential. He's done multi-deal deals, residential, mixed use, multifamily. Nate's making loans. He's buying multifamily. He's buying rentals. He's flipping houses.
I got a mixed use too.
He's got mixed use.
After about
so, the whole point of this is when you have an opportunity thrown at you, Hassan could have said, I can't handle 13 deals. I started investing when I was your age probably. So I'd get those calls because this is long before there was a bunch of people sending out letters and everything. We were one of the first couple people doing it, or strong anyways. And I'd get a call from a guy with 7 or 12 properties and I'd freak out because I'm like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
So you got to be able to take that and kind of chew on it for a minute and say, okay, how can we work this out?
Yeah.
And be able to put together a creative deal and not just say I'm cash. So you could have went to that guy with 500 cash and he was like, nah, I don't want 500 cash. So you worked it out at 6 something or whatever it was. Yeah. And you still made a healthy amount of money, enough to quit your job, which is always a big fear and worry for people, and going just back to what Nate said, he gets an opportunity thrown at him and maybe he doesn't want to buy the deal. Maybe the guy who brings it to him wants it and he's going to lend him the money somehow and just make money that way.
True. Yep.
So you got to be smart enough. It's like, I talk about like, it's like when a soccer ball gets kicked into a circle, you're not just going to kick it a certain way, right? You're going to use your knees, you're going to use your chest, you're going to use your shoulders, you're going to use your elbows, whatever you can do, right, to keep that thing going.
Yeah.
So you got to be flexible and really have different ways to do things because in today's market, it's a hot market. So it's really hard to find good opportunities. I mean, you've only done, you've done a few deals, but they were bigger deals. Mm-hmm. If you were fighting for 13, it takes half a year to do 13 deals for a lot of guys and girls who are serious. Yeah. You did it like that, And I know it took a year or 9 months, but Was that the only thing you did? Of course not, because you only worked on that, 6% of the time.
Yeah. And I think even coming back to like figuring out how to take down a deal that's outside of your comfort zone, I think there's probably like a few factors. Like one, I have an opinion. I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it on some podcast a long time ago. And the guy was like, if you read 5 books on any topic, you're smarter now than 95% of people in the world on that topic. So it can be on like neuroscience, it can be on physics, it can be on real estate.
Sure.
Now you know more than 95%. Now the only 5% is like the people who are writing those books are doing that stuff every day. So that's what you do first. And then like now once you have the elementary knowledge, then you just start connecting with people who do it on a daily basis. And at least they're going to take you seriously because you know the terminology or they know that you're for real.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. Nate's a big reader. I consider myself a big reader, and you've got to be able to sit down with somebody, whether you're talking to a CEO or the CEO of 5 rentals, and speak their language and understand. Like I always tell these stories. These guys will stand around, they'll smoke cigarettes and kick dirt, and they'll say, "What are you going to give me for this?" Or "How much do I got to give to buy that?" And they're like, "What does that mean?" Right? And then you sit down with the CEO, and he's like, "How does your portfolio look?" And how are you on cash right now? And they all speak different. So if you can sit down with them and break it down, and kind of make them understand or believe that you
like in their language.
Yeah, in their language. You got to make them comfortable.
Definitely.
Well, and you want to sound intelligent when you're speaking to somebody like that you're going to make money.
You don't
from.
always have to sound intelligent either.
Yeah, both ways.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Dylan, you want to tell us about your last deal? That was the quickest deal I've ever seen happen from the time you got a phone call to the time we closed.
Yeah, so, sometimes you get lucky, and it's always better to be lucky than good. So this time I was lucky, and I had just a regular house that I took down. I've only closed on a couple houses in the last couple of years, which I'm proud to say because I'm only assigning right now. Nice. I'm also doing new construction in the project, but that's a whole different thing. So yeah, I got a call from a new investor. Actually, I got a couple emails, and he kept asking me how much he had to bring to the title company. So I'm like, when you get those emails, right? Yeah. You're like, yeah, whatever. Don't waste my time. Yeah. So then finally I got him on the phone, and he was like, no, I'm new at this, and I'm really excited to do this deal. And the numbers made sense. It was a buy and hold property, and it's going to be like a mega cash flow deal for the guy. But from that conversation to close was about 3 days, and everything was funded. He's super duper happy. I'm going to get him on a podcast. He's got a couple partners, another young guy, which is awesome. Yeah. And I don't know exactly where he found me. He found me somewhere on Facebook because I do tend to post my deals on there and put a lot of information on there. So I found him on there, or he found me on there. And once we got connected, he looked at all the things that I do and the networking groups and podcasts and hanging out with guys and ladies like you. So that brought his resistance down. He wasn't nervous to do business with me.
Oh yeah.
And then right away, I sent him some information that night. I CC'd Erika. Erika, explained some stuff to him too about closing, and just kind of backed up what I told him, so it made him comfortable. Yeah. And just knocked it out of the park in like 3 days, which it doesn't happen all the time. Like I said, much better to be lucky than good. But I don't always, roll 7s and 11s. So.
Yeah. No, that's true. True. Yeah. And plus luck is so far out of your control too.
Absolutely.
It's like, man, sometimes you just get really lucky and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like you look back at it. Well,
the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? When you put in work every day, you get lucky. Yeah. How many free throws did Michael Jordan shoot?
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing the only reason it went that quick is because he looked you up and saw you've been doing stuff for years.
Oh, yeah.
So like it took years to get you the trust basically on that, even though it was 3 days, right?
It was because he was out of town and he had me.
Probably.
That's why it went so.
Listen, here's how it works. When you do a lot of business with with one company, you can leverage that. So it definitely was a huge help and game changer. But yeah, I mean, that's just what it's all about, making people feel comfortable, being able to speak their language. I didn't know this kid was in his early 20s, but I do high school mentoring through Winning Futures. So some of my mentees are still older than you guys. I've been doing it for 10 years now. So I know how to talk to those 20-year-old kids. Plus, it's fun talking to the young guys and helping them. And I let them know whatever you need. If you need an insurance guy, if you need the clean out guy, the house is cleaned out. But just if you need to work with the city, if you know what I mean, if you need to navigate the paperwork, just come to me. I'll help you. So I went full concierge because I was I was doing business with them. I was making money. But more importantly, it's not today's deal. This kid's 22, let's say. Well, I'm going to be around for 50 more years flipping houses, right? So I got 50 more years business with this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in cutting people's heads off. I call it being a head chopper. Because when you cut somebody's head off, they're dead. So it's got to be a fair trade for everybody. And there's guys that I wholesale houses to that rehab, and I can make 20, 30 grand on a wholesale, and they make 40, 50. You know what they say? Give me more.
Mm-hmm. That's how it works. You treat them good.
But yeah, so I mean, between all three of you, I mean, the deals are insane between either the type of properties or how you purchased them or how you bought them or if you're lending money. I mean, there are just so many different avenues for you guys to make money. And the more creative you are, the more I like it because it's something new for me. So,
well, even doubling back on what Erika talked about when she helped me out when I was out of town, you know, not being a one-trick pony as a title agency too is huge for guys like us. Because whether it's getting a question answered, you know, I've been running RIAs and stuff for a long time. So there's new people, not just young, but new people that'll come to me and say, hey, I'm buying a house on a quick claim deed and I'm going to sign it at McDonald's and all this and that. And I'm like, whoa. You got to talk to a title company. You got to talk to an attorney, a CPA, brokers, people like us, like who've gotten our legs blown off or know people that have. And you got to slow down. But, you know, Michigan Investment Titles is able to get a lot of those deals done that other places either don't want to do or won't take the time to do. And not that it's their job to talk to our clients, but I have had clients call here and make sure what I told them was true and that we were actually closing or the funds were going to be there. And, you know, the answer is every time.
Especially in like this business too, because some sellers are like, wait a minute, is this a hoax or something?
Sure.
Right? And or I'm going to just lose my place.
there's always a way to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, it might be around the back way to get it
Yeah.
done, but there is always a way to get that deal done. So we'll figure it out. That's what we do.
And that's what Erika helped me out with 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When I called her, I didn't have Erika's cell phone at that time, and so I texted.
And what's that number? It's 248.
Oh, Stop, no.
Look it up.
No.
And so
Text your deals in, everybody.
So I contacted someone else who had it, and then I reached out to Erika Friday night. I think you were like eating dinner, and I was like, "Hey, I have to get this deal done by Monday," because the guy I was assigning the complex to, he was like, "I need to close by Monday, or else."
And this was like the mixed use kind of commercial deal, so it's not like a $50,000 house that you can figure out quick.
Yeah, it was a lot of paperwork, but it's like relationships like that, right? Like one, it's complex already.
That's huge.
And then to have someone on your side who's like, okay, I can take.
Well,
care of that.
the difference is it's pretty much impossible to say that you're ever going to go anywhere else when you get service like that, because you know I don't care what business we're in. It's hard enough to go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and you know get your order right.
Yeah.
So when it's something that's that like huge and just, I mean, that's awesome. I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
cool.
I had a small deal probably like 3 weeks ago through Erika, and it was a small deal, so nothing like that. And I missed a message from her that she probably sent at 10 a.m. And at like 11:30 p.m., I messaged her back. 2 minutes later, she shot me a message. I was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to like wake you up." She's like, "No, I'm still at the office."
Oh my
I was like, "Oh, that's crazy," you know. And like I said, it was a small deal, so yeah, no, it was awesome service for sure.
Well, that's a nice office too. So
yeah.
You know, you can hang out here.
Let's get Nate some water.
Thank you. I keep coughing over
Like
here.
I said, man, full service. This is how we do it, right? That's how we do business. So, kind of finishing up here, I'd like to go around the table and ask everyone. I like to do this because then I'm in control and I know what I'm going to say. So I'll go last. No, I'm kidding. It's like when you go to lunch with somebody and nobody knows what they're going to get and they always want to go last, right? So, what books have you listened to or read that have made a huge impact, whether it was 10 years ago or yesterday? And Hassan, you go first. You're the guest.
So it has to be one, or it can be a few books.
It can be 20 books.
Oh, okay. Well,
We'll put them all in the show notes.
oh, sweet. Can I like Amazon affiliate those?
We've already got that covered.
Damn. No, I'm just kidding. So I think the first book I read was 4 Hour Work Week, which was just a mind shift to kind of start thinking about how to make money passively. So that was fantastic for me. It wasn't real estate associated, but just kind of like business. Then Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur. That book is really good too. He talks a lot about creative deals, commercial stuff.
Who's the author on that?
Ooh, I don't know his name. Joe.
Fairless?
No. I think it's Randall, but not the mortgage guy that's local. It's another Joe Randall. So That book was really good. There's another book that I'm reading right now. It's called Seeking Wisdom: From Darwin to Munger, which is really cool. I think also Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is written by Charlie Munger, if you guys have heard about it.
Sure.
The concepts in there are like groundbreaking. Not groundbreaking. I'm sure they've been around for a while, but
this goes into not being a one-trick pony. So most people hopefully know who Charlie Munger is, but tell them who Charlie Munger is.
So Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, and Berkshire Hathaway would be nowhere as close to how big it is without that guy.
Right. So Hassan's reading about creative real estate deals and how Warren Buffett, who's basically the greatest investor of our lifetime, maybe ever, does business. That's a lot deeper than 13 houses, but that's where those concepts come from.
Yeah. And it's all about at some point analyzing risk and rewards, whatever you're doing, right? You're just kind of analyzing, okay, here's the risk that I'm taking. And for me, my general criteria is I can risk $1 to make $5. So that means I can lose 4 times and still break even, or 5 times. But essentially, like if you start reading, and they're basically like this idea of like a lattice work in your brain of different subjects that you can then connect. And that's what Charlie Munger talks about. So he's like, okay, you study these different topics in life because then you'll start to connect the dots that normal people can't connect. So if you study topics like critical mass in physics or like engineering and all these different things that on the surface they don't connect, but your brain will start to think about things in ways like, even if it's associated to investing, you'll start to connect it to topics in physics because like Charlie Munger said, all the wisdom in the world is not contained within one academic department, right?
Sure.
So then you start connecting these dots, and that's really where you get this where you can start to really do big stuff. So
yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that guys like Nate and Hassan are so smart because they're going to graduate from real estate investing, and I'll still be here, slugging it out with my South Warren rentals. So Nate, I know you're a big reader. What do you think? What do you got?
So I try to say a different book every time. So a book I read maybe like a year and a half ago was by Ray Dalio. It's called Principles. It might be like Life and Work.
One of the greatest business books of all time.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah,
It's
no,
good?
it was really good.
Okay.
He's supposed to come out with the second one, which that's why I get confused because one of them's like Life Work something and the other one's Business something. But the book I read, one of the main themes he talks about like his meritocracy or whatever, how he set up his company. And meritocracy means like if I own the company, a lot of people would be like, Hassan, you have to do this way, you have to do this. His meritocracy is like everyone comes up with an idea and everyone basically votes. So in a way, like basically everyone has equal power based on how intelligent they are in that realm. So like if you're really good at wholesaling, you would actually outweigh me, even though I might own the company. So like, I don't know, it's really interesting though. It's a good way to like leverage everyone's talents and allow them to be the best they can be. And it increases your company crazy. And that guy, just so you know, Ray Dalio's, a billionaire, like a investor. He started out in commodities and, has one of the largest funds in the world. But yeah, so all his principles apply to anything. So, it's just a different viewpoint.
That book's like 16 hours long if you get the audio version.
Yeah, I have the audio version. I believe I read it too.
It's basically 2 books in one, actually, right?
Oh, yeah, it is. It is, unless when I listened to it, maybe it didn't come out the second part, but it's really long. The audio was 16 or 18 hours. It was ridiculously long, and I think I read it too. But that was really good. And back to what Hassan was saying about listening to different subjects. I used to be really interested in like neurological science, like how brains work. And that's super helpful, right? I know I forgot a lot of it and I remember most of it, but it's just cool because you by knowing that stuff, you understand how other people's brains work and how yours work. So like I think I'm able to maximize my reading, all that stuff, and retain most of it because I understand how your brain works and operates and those connections. He was saying too, just by having multiple connections, your brain gets better at getting new connections and remembering.
Yeah, you're gonna
it's like a workout,
right? You build those neurons and they start connecting, and it's just like.
But like those books were awesome. So like same thing.
Lifting weights at different angles and working the same muscle, but it changes everything down deep.
Yep. So I recommend to read outside of real estate. Like try to do 50-50. And then when you get to know real estate a lot better, it might be like 70-30, 70 outside, 30 in. So.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of stopped doing real estate investment education years and years ago because I'd done a lot of those deals already. Not that you shouldn't go back and kind of like refresh yourself, but I spend most of my time either reading about sales, neuroscience, also psychology, or kind of just mindset. Like I got a new book called Fearvana, and some older guys, I'm labeled an OG when I go out of town and hang out with some of these guys because I'm in the over 40 club, right? And everybody else is like 25. So they're all reading a book called Fearvana. These older guys are like in their 50s and 60s because they're having a hard time going from, I'm doing business, I'm doing okay, to like, how do I do 13 deals in one swat? You know what I mean? How do I kill 13 flies with one swat? Because they're not there. They don't have that mindset. So I don't know if every book helps. I don't think it's going to super change my mindset because I do have a ridiculous belief in my ability. But it's always good to listen to what those guys say. I mean, I'm just being honest. Listen, Hassan did 13 deals. I know I can do 13 deals. He knows he can do 130 because you add a zero, it makes no difference. Yeah. And somebody was talking to me about Nate. Nate's good at raising money, and young in the business, I was good at raising money also. And the more you get, the easier it is. You can't find a $20,000 lender. That's a pain in the neck. Yep. But you can find a $200K lender. And then when the time comes, a $20 million, not $2 million, a $20 million lender, bam, they're there like that. Yeah. Because if you have the right opportunity, real money finds it. Yeah. And we're still playing, a little bit in the little leagues.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you guys are a lot of years behind me, so you're gonna surpass me by my age for sure. But you got to have that belief in yourself, because if you don't, and you're an entrepreneur, you better be able to either do software, build video games, or figure out how to make the next pill or something. Mm-hmm. Because I tell you what, you got to be able to take a beating, right, and get back up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just thought it was funny. Like, I think the same thing about myself. So I just funny.
Right. Everybody thinks I got an ego problem.
Yeah. I just don't say it. But no, I agree though. You have to have like self-confidence, basically.
Yeah.
So can you recommend also a neuroscience book? Because I was actually interested in reading.
I'll have to look back on which ones I read. I probably still own a couple of them. A couple were digital, but yeah, that's an awesome topic. And you can find some real cool articles because like that just gets crazier like every day. So I started reading about that maybe like 7 years ago, and every year like new stuff comes out because they can like examine stuff closer.
And NZT.
All kinds of stuff.
We're all going to be on NZT.
Limitless?
Yeah, from Limitless.
Yeah.
Oh.
You take that pill and then you're just like...
But yeah, I'll have to look back because I have a couple books left.
It's real.
It might be real.
It'd be better.
It'd be better than
might be real.
It'd be better than sitting here talking about how to sell dispensaries.
Yeah.
at least you're putting people this way instead of that way, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole different discussion. So, Erika, tell us about what books you're reading.
So I am midway through a course called Rainmaker's Laboratory, and it's almost like a book club for like-minded people in my business. So we do calls every other week on what we've learned and just discuss different topics. But they take bits and pieces from a bunch of different books, many of them that we've talked about on the show before. So it's a nice way to. I'm better at talking about it because.
Is there anything specific you can point out to us? I'm putting her on the spot.
I don't like that.
What was like one of the more recent books that you guys just finished up?
What is it called? Right hook, left hook, I think is the one that we just got through doing. So I'm really
jab,
bad.
Left hook?
There you go.
Jab, right hook?
There you go.
You're
recommending the wrong book.
You're talking about Gary Vee's book?
No. So, but we, but Rich Griffin is one of our head salespeople through North America, and along with Michael Holden. So that they put on a big thing. So there's about 30 of us that all just we do calls about once a month, and it's a half an hour, but then there's a big page, and we all go back and forth on. So.
It's huge to do that stuff. I mean, we're so lucky now to have what we have with technology. I always talk about. When I started real estate investing, there was no YouTube. Then it was 2-minute videos. You guys can watch everything. You don't have to go to any courses. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is still value in paying for something for sure, but there's a lot of free information out there. And like to be able to have like a little mini network like that where, as entrepreneurs, again, we got to lean on each other because it's really hard to be a true solopreneur. It's not impossible, but like I said, you've got to, almost have zero personality and want to like sit and be an egghead all day because what's the fun if you can't, bring lunch in and feed a bunch of people and make them happy? You know what I mean? And the whole office smelled like Arabic food as soon as I walked in the building. and we were on our way to lunch then and there. So I had to go across the street and have a crappy salad, and I could have had some shawarma and some good stuff. But
and
next time.
Just really quick to go back to that, I think when we were talking about doing like a big deal or doing something that's outside of your comfort zone. The big thing for me was to connect with other people that were doing really big things, and then it made me feel like the 13 deals. I think that's like chump change. That's like a little baby deal, because now I've tried to connect with people who are doing hundreds and hundreds or thousands of deals a year, and it's like, okay, what do you like? It's kind of like nothing. So when you get in a sphere of a group where it's like a lot of high caliber people, whatever you're doing just seems minuscule,
right?
And that's like a great way to just pop out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and then like we talked about, you have a big belief in yourself, and us three can be in the big head club together. we're gonna start a new podcast about that. We're just gonna start on and brag about everything we've done.
Oh no, you can't call it that though.
Let me get that domain name. Producer, grab that domain name from GoDaddy. So I don't know. I think that's it, huh?
Yeah,
We've gone over everything.
I think so. I mean, it's just the only other thing I was going to add is the networking portion. So I mean, and that's by going to Chicago or going to RIAs or other networking groups and meeting people, and not just online. Because I mean, although that connection is always nice, when you go to some of the bigger groups or the national groups, that, and you're meeting people.
Oh yeah.
And that's where a lot of my business planning, a lot of people that, are doing much bigger things than I am, and you get to talk to them and how did you get to that place? So, I mean, it's really just important to connect with those people.
I 1000%. I was just talking to Nate before we started, but that I was just telling him that I'm going to go to the BP conference in wherever, Nashville or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $1,000, which is, that's not cheap, but
especially for a sellathon.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get pitched all day and night, baby.
But
you'll never be around as many good people as you will there.
So
learn from the guys on stage how they close, and then just network the heck out of it.
Exactly. That's what it's all
it'll be
about.
worth every penny.
So that's the gold right there.
That's cool.
You meet with some like high rollers, and you're like, whoa. Now I thought I had set my expectations high. I remember one time I went to a conference and I was like, I want to get to, I think it was like 50 or 100 doors was my goal. And the guy was like, he was my age. And I was like, what's your goal? And he's like, I'm trying to get to $1 billion. And before he's 30. And I was like, what? And then I walked away. I was like, what am I doing? Right. So it's like that.
So let me ask you guys one question too while I got you here. So I think you're kind of above, you guys are both above kind of the level of investor that I'm thinking about. But if you were right at that spot where you were almost like taking it to the next level, do you think that it would make more sense to go to something like that Bigger Pockets meeting where there's going to be a bunch of speakers on stage who are kind of selling courses and it's more about networking? Or do you think you'd be better off going to an event where there's a bunch of experts speaking that aren't selling anything, that are just telling, basically their stories and how they do things all in different segments of the business?
Yeah, I think they're both useful. I guess if I could pick between the two, I'd rather the non-sell because they're telling you more instead of like holding back for their sale. But if you can't go to that, those are cool because like there's probably gonna be 1,000 people there in the stands or whatever, so he can meet all kinds of people. But yeah, that is a lot better because, like I said, then they're not selling their course. Because if they're selling the course, they can't tell you everything. They can't just be like, here it is. Because then why are you going to buy a $5,000-$10,000 course?
You either pay in the front or the back. So you're either going to pay more to go to one of those events where you're just going to learn, or you're going to pay less. And for me, a lot of times I prefer to go to both, of course, if I can. But if I go to the big one, I'm going to meet a whole bunch of people too. But I think for that person that's just ready to take it to the next level, the ones who don't have the big head yet, they're trying to get there. They're kind of better off going to the ones where they're going to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Go anywhere where you can just find someone who will you can bounce an idea off of or talk to about how they started.
Yeah, that's great advice.
That's anywhere you can go, even if it's like on a Zoom meeting, even if you like find some guy online and it's like, all right, this person's doing stuff that I want to do, just connect with them. Like I have friends. I have a friend right now who just paid a guy $1,000 for 2 hours of his time over lunch.
Sure.
And because that person's in our local area doing 200-300 flips a year, and he wants to get to that level, so you pay for it in some way, either it's your time or it's physical or it's money.
Or do business with. I tell these young guys have come to RIA the last 15 years, and they're like, how can we buy you lunch? How can we be my mentor? And I'm like, I'll be your mentor every day. Find me deals.
Yeah,
that's it. Because I'm stuck hanging out with you then, right?
Yeah.
Bring me deals. Bring me deals. Bring me deals.
Exactly. 1,000%.
All right. So
I think we're good.
all right, everybody. Well, again, this has been another Michigan Real Estate Investor Network Roundtable, and make sure you subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Stitcher, we're on all those other places. So you can find us, but make sure that you check us out. We're here all the time, bringing you real information, and as always, sharing the love. We hope you found a lot of value in today's show. If there's anything we mentioned and you missed it, don't worry. We take all of the notes, and you can find them at michiganreinetwork.com/episodes. If you want to meet any of today's guests in person, you can usually find them at a #The Network meetup in Metro Detroit. You can find all about the network at www.michiganreinetwork.com. By the way, if you're new, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes of this show. This brings us to the end of another episode of #The Network Roundtable Podcast. And as always, share the love.